Oh, this is the night, it's a beautiful night, and we call it Bella Notte. Look at the skies, they have stars in their eyes, on this lovely Bella Notte.
Good evening. Can I offer you a glass of wine?
Wow, why does this waitress look so much like my date?
Why, yes, that is my favorite fermented beverage ever.
What kind of wine do you have?
I really recommend these two. Oh, okay, I'll take this one. Okay.
How does it make wine?
You know, that's a good question. I've always wondered what the difference is between red and white wine, and how is it that they taste so good? These are the kinds of things that keep me up all night.
Hello, class. Why don't you tell me what you know about glycolysis?
Well, I know it's a 10-step process breaking down glucose. Why are you here? Oh, it's just that after the restaurant, you really got me thinking, and I couldn't even sleep at night. Understandable.
Well, back to the subject. Glycolysis starts with 1 unit of glucose, and it goes to 2 units of pyruvate.
Hey, and steps 1, 3, 7, and 10 are all highly regulated, and they're going to affect the final outcome of glycolysis. Step 3, PSK, is a committing step to glycolysis. Great stuff, class, you really know your stuff.
Now let's talk about the next step, producing wine.
Yay! Once pyruvate is produced, it has 3 options. Under aerobic conditions, it can go through the TCA cycle, and anaerobically, it can go through lactic acid fermentation and produce 2 lactates.
But what we're going to be talking about is alcoholic fermentation, where anaerobically 2 NADH get oxidized into 2 NAD+, and you get 2 ethanol and 2 CO2 as your product. Let's talk about alcoholic fermentation and the process of alcohol dehydrogenase.
Great idea. First, it starts with pyruvate. Pyruvate becomes acetaldehyde with the help of the enzyme pyruvate decarboxylase, which releases carbon dioxide. Acetaldehyde then becomes ethanol with the help of the enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase, which oxidizes NADH to NAD+, and you get ethanol. Wine is the alcoholic drink produced by grapes from the fermentation of yeast. A common yeast used is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. During fermentation, yeast mixes with pyruvate, releasing carbon dioxide.
As I recall, fermentation is the production of ATP by reduction pathways in which organic molecules act as electron donors and acceptors, right?
Yes, that's true.
In addition, the different types of yeast added for fermentation affect the amount of sugar, which then affects the alcohol content. Grapes with the highest amount of sugar generally make the best wine. So what's the difference between red and white wine?
Well, that's a good question. In white wine, you actually remove the skin and then you put all the juice into a fermentation tank. And after fermentation, which is 2 to 4 weeks, you settle it and it filters out the yeast and then it's stored to age. In red wine, you ferment with the skin, and that's because the skin has tannins, and tannins add acidity and the red color of red wine. And then later, after the fermentation process, the skin and the yeast are filtered and then it's stored to age.
The difference in flavors depends on a few things, such as the variety of grapes, the kind of soil, the climate it's grown in, and how long the grapes are left on the vine. So I'm assuming the longer we allow grapes to hang on vines and more time we allow for the wine to macerate on the grapes, the more intense the flavor is. Oh, and the difference in the soil must have to do with the fact that soil must be in equilibrium with the climate, as it contributes to the cation exchange and the water delivery.
Right. I also heard the cool night temperature in Napa preserves the acidity of the wine, helping contribute to the award-winning wine that comes out of that area.
And by manipulating these factors, that's how we get our wine to taste so good.
Aha! Now I know how this deliciousness is created. My questions have been answered. I can finally sleep better at night.
Look at the skies, they have stars in their eyes on this lovely bella notte. Side by side with your loved one, you'll find enchantment here.